Good afternoon. I'm attorney Maui Davis of the Davis Bozeman Johnson Law Firm. And we thank you for coming out this afternoon so that we have an opportunity to respond to the recent termination of Officer Kimbrough by the Atlanta Police Department. We have with us family of Deacon, Chairman Deacon Johnny Hollman Sr. We also have organizers and students and community activists who have stood with this family. It has now been 2 months. On August 10th, this tragedy began for this family. On August 10th, it was that night that this deacon, coming from a Bible study, was in a minor traffic accident, called for police, waited for police as any good citizen would, and then was ultimately assaulted, forced to the ground, tased, punched, and killed by Officer Kimbrough. And so we want to continue to center this family. We've asked for Anitra Hollman to be right here in between us because we want the focus to be on this family and what they have lost. It's not about the lawyers. It's not about the organizers. It's not about anyone other than this family and our support for them. And so we're honored to represent a family that has shown the courage and the resiliency. We live in communities that tell us not to speak up, not to go against law enforcement, not to challenge this system. But this family has challenged this system, and the community has rallied behind them. We have pastors here. We have community organizers. We have students who have heard their call and their cry for help. That night, Deacon Hollman yelled out, "Help me." Think about it. That someone who has called the police and waited for them, but when he's encountered by the police, while he's being assaulted by the police, he has to yell out, "Help me." That's the absurdity of what happened on August the 10th. Yet, we are here to acknowledge that out of the 4 demands that this family has made and the community has supported, today 1 of them have been met. The 4 demands have been clear. Release the tape. Release the tape. We've been clear about that. This family has wanted that because of the way their father has been depicted in initial police reports and press releases. Even up until today, the same narrative is being parroted by the Atlanta Police Department in their release about him being combative, resisting arrest, and all of these narratives that make him seem as though he was the criminal, when we have said from the very beginning that the only criminal that night was Officer Kimbrough. And the fact that they would continue to state this narrative is both sad and unfortunate, and it's very telling as to how far they will go to slander this good man's name. The second demand has been that this officer be terminated. And we know that having done this, our firm having done this kind of civil rights work for many years, that it's not common that the officer is terminated. There are people right now who are still on the job after having killed a citizen of Georgia, right in this, as we speak today. And so we recognize this as a victory for this family, but with many more to come. The third thing was that this officer needed to be arrested. And while we wish no one to be placed in the very dangerous confines of the Fulton County Jail, if that's where they take criminals, that's where he must go. And then the fourth and final is the full, complete prosecution of this officer until he is convicted and ultimately sentenced. Those have been the 4 demands. The family's been consistent on those demands, and this community has backed them. I want to say before Attorney Spence addresses the Atlanta Police Department statement that we thank the people of Atlanta. We're not talking about the city. We thank the people who have come now to 3 different marches and protests. The first one being just days after they lost their father, And those organizers, some of whom are here today, have been standing with this family for 2 months. The second one was when the students at the Atlanta University Center, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta students, Georgia State, Emory students came and marched from CAU all the way to CNN. And then finally, the family asked the community to come out and march with them. And that march was from a park near where Mr. Hollman lived, as we walked past where he ultimately took his last breath, and then on to City Hall. And so we thank the people. We give credit to the people. We know that it's power with the people. That is what our firm has been based on. That is not just the lawyers, but it requires the people having an elevated consciousness about this system that continues to oppress largely black, brown, and poor people. And so with that, we are grateful. We lift up, I invite Attorney Harold Spence, our law partner who has been working on this litigation for this, to share his thoughts as it relates to the statement that was provided by the Atlanta Police Department. Attorney Spence.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Harold Spence. I'm a partner with the Davis Bozeman Johnson law firm. We were elated today when we heard that Officer Kimbrough had been terminated from his employment with the City of Atlanta's Police Department. Immediately, we were curious as to what the basis of that termination would be. When we read the police chief's statement telling us what the basis of that termination was, quite frankly, we were a little deflated. The statement said that the officer was terminated because he failed to have a supervisor on the scene at the time he began efforts to effect the arrest of Deacon Hollman. Are you kidding me? Because he didn't have a supervisor on the scene? Again, that's why we believe it's even more incumbent that this video be released. Because I guarantee you that when you see this video, your thought won't be, where was the supervisor? Why didn't he call the supervisor? You'll be asking yourself, why wasn't there some mention of the leg sweep that took this deacon to the ground? Why wasn't there some mention of the brutalizing that he took, the physical brutalizing that he took at the hands of this officer? Why wasn't there some mention of his repeated pleas, I can't breathe, that grew increasingly in desperation? Why wasn't there some mention of that? Why wasn't there some mention of the repeated tasing of Deacon Hollman? Not a word. Instead, we're told that he got fired because he didn't summon a supervisor to the scene. So it's this kind of technical gamesmanship where you achieve a laudable end in terminating him, but at the same time, you don't address the real problems. That wasn't why Deacon Hollman died, because there wasn't a supervisor there that night. He died because this officer, this obsessed officer, brutalized him, a 23-year-old brutalizing a 62-year-old elder. That's why he died. So if we're going to be transparent and honest, because we want to have better relations between citizens and the police, we got to be not just transparent, we've got to be honest about what happened and why this officer got fired. I'm quite curious to hear the chief explain why there's no mention of those other factors that I just talked about. Why the only basis for this officer's termination, at least that has been publicly disclosed, is that there was no supervisor there. Stop playing these shell games. Let's be honest. Let's acknowledge what happened. And like Attorney Davis, I was disappointed as well when appended to the chief's statement was a prior statement that the city had released. This prior statement talked about Deacon Hollman being combative. That's just not true. Him not following directions, that's just not true. He never refused to do anything that the officer asked him to do. And so we're assuming that by the time the city put out this official statement, that they had actually had a chance to view the video. But notwithstanding the presumptive effort by them to view the video, what do? They put out a false narrative that smears Deacon Hollman. And it's a narrative that will be clearly and unequivocally refuted by the video once it's released. We've seen a lot of videos since 2020. While this video perhaps is not as graphic as that in which George Floyd was killed, it does share a commonality with the George Floyd video. The killing is equally senseless. Made no sense. And that's what the chief's statement doesn't address. The senselessness of what happened and how it could have been avoided. And it should have been avoided. We shouldn't even be here today. This should have been a routine matter that involved the deacon being given a citation, being allowed to go home, and he would have continued his life. Yet, he ended up dying on a cold Atlanta street on August 10th, 2023. It's sad, it's unfortunate. While we celebrate this victory, we are trying to change the system that creates people like Officer Kimbrough. Right. And this system gets perpetuated when you have official findings for somebody's termination that don't address the underlying facts of what caused someone's death. And the chief of police's statement does not address the underlying irrefutable facts that this video will establish. Again, we're grateful for the termination, but let's not just be transparent, City of Atlanta. Let's be honest as well.
As Attorney Spence has pointed out, Deacon Hollman should have been given a ticket, and he should have appeared in court. In fact, he was scheduled to be in court on yesterday, but he couldn't appear, so I had to. And so when I appeared, here's how the case was dismissed. And I think it's important to note that his charge was improper lane change. His charge was improper lane change. Not guns, not dope, not any of the mess that they're trying to attach to this good man's name. His charge. The citation read improper lane change. That was what he was scheduled to be in court for, and that alone. So anything else is rhetoric that they are attempting to, again, distract the community, the people of Atlanta. The city is attempting to distract the people of Atlanta. And next to it, right underneath it, under improper lane change, it said dismissed. Why? Defendant deceased. That these two comments are on the same document, again, underscores the absurdity of Deacon Hollman being murdered by Officer Kimbrough. That an improper lane change would end up with a defendant being deceased. That's how crazy this is. And they want us, they want this family, they want the citizens of Atlanta to believe that somehow this 62-year-old was a match for this 23-year-old. It's just not the truth. And so we remain outraged. We remain, and we're not apologizing for how we practice law. We don't just go and let's just go in some back room and deal with this. No, let's out this system so that let us move to a different area of practice so that we don't have to do civil rights law anymore. My law degree allows us to do all kinds of law. I'm ready to do some other kind of law. But I can't. We can't. As long as this system continues to take black bodies without any concern, only to try to continue to perpetuate this ongoing system fundamentally of white supremacy that just says our lives don't matter. But we're going to keep standing with this family and other families, and we're going to keep saying Deacon Hollman's life mattered. These other lives matter. And until the system stops, we can't stop. We won't stop. Until this system stops, we won't stop. And that's what we need the people to know. So part of, people asked us last week, why is everything so public? Why shouldn't it be?
Right. The killing was public.
Why shouldn't it be? He was on a public street.
That's right.
He had paid as a citizen to be able to drive down that street safely. He had paid for that officer his salary with his taxes. He had paid for even the taser that was used against him. And somehow it shouldn't be public. As long as we're involved, it'll continue to be public until we get this right. Until we birth a better world, a better system that acknowledges the humanity of a deacon, of anybody. Doesn't have to be a deacon, of anybody. We'd like for our president of the Concerned Black Clergy, who is here, President Reverend Jones, he is going to announce, because we've had students, the pastors have been working and organizing with us, we've had community organizers, but the pastors and deacons are going to continue this push. Again, we're not stopping. Rev.
Again, I'm Reverend Shannon Jones, President of Concerned Black Clergy of Metropolitan Atlanta, and we, the CBC, is standing with the Hollman family. There is a gathering of clergy and deacons from throughout the metropolitan area. Behind me is Bishop Greg Fann of the South Fulton Ministerial Alliance. We have received calls from clergy from all throughout Georgia that are just heartbroken by what has happened to this deacon. In fact, this chairman of the deacon board. In fact, we hear the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The moral arc of the universe is long, but indeed it bends towards justice. My good friends that are with me in the justice work said, but there must be a bender that bends it. This case brings us to the intersection of faith and society. This case brings church deacons and pastors that normally do not come outside of the four walls of their churches to come to the center of society to say enough is enough. And so Deacon Hollman's death will not be in vain, but it is a moment that shines a light on darkness, to expose the darkness of a broken culture and a broken bridge that exists between the African American community and the brown community and law enforcement. And so on Thursday, the 19th of October at 6:30 p.m. at the First Iconian Baptist Church, we will hold the clergy and deacons justice revival. And following that event, or that evening, to stand with this family, to pray for this family, and to pray that justice rolls down. We will also have a march on Saturday, the 21st. It will be called the Stevens March. We invite you to do your homework, all of you biblical scholars. And there was a deacon named Stephen in the Bible. And that deacon was stoned, and there was a man that everybody likes to quote today. His name was Saul. And he stood there as this deacon was martyred. And so we're standing. We will have a march that will start from the King Historic District, clergy and deacons and community and justice-loving people. And we will march from the King Historic District to Atlanta City Hall. The march will begin at 11 a.m. We will march for justice. We will march for change. Because that man named Saul met a man named Jesus. And when he met a justice-loving Jesus, his name was changed from Saul to Paul.
Right.
And if Saul could change, Atlanta could change. If Saul could change, the police department of Atlanta and the metropolitan area and police departments in this country can change. If Saul could change, the Atlanta Police Department and police culture can change. So we will march and we will bend this more towards justice. We are delighted to stand with this firm and to stand with this family in solidarity.
Thank you. Thank you. We are also joined by the state conference president of the NAACP, Brother Gerald Griggs, Attorney Gerald Griggs, and we have asked Attorney Griggs, we believe that this is as senseless of a police death as we have seen in Georgia and in the country. And so we've asked President Griggs to consider elevating this to the national NAACP so that they might join in this work of holding Atlanta accountable. We want to be the civil rights cradle, then we have to be that in purpose as of now. We cannot rely on our history of great ones who come before us and we stand on their shoulders, but we can't lay down. And so we've asked President Griggs, and so we're looking forward to an opportunity for this family to meet with national board members of the NAACP so that they can hear directly from them. I'd like to have Arnitra, who's been representing the family, and you all had an opportunity to hear from all of the family members. They spoke down at City Council. We believe what they said was impactful. It was so impactful that City Council decided that they would submit a resolution unanimously to pass and call for the release of that resolution. That required courage of this family. That required all of the folks here to show up at City Council. And so we've been saying it. These children have been standing up for their father, and it's out of a love that's deep, that's rich, that's beautiful. And we so often talk about black fathers in this negative light.
That's right.
But here's a family, here are adult children who said their father was so good, so powerful, so wonderful, that they would not dare stop fighting for justice for him. And so we lift up that father, their father, Deacon Johnny Hollman, and we ask his eldest daughter, Anitra Hollman, to share.
Hi, my name's Anitra Hollman. I'm the oldest daughter of Johnny Hollman Sr. First of all, I want to just say thank you. I want to thank the people that's been standing with us, that's been supporting us through all of this. It's been very hard. Just like Attorney Davis said, it's now been 2 months since our father has been gone. It's been very devastating for us. It's been very hard on us. I don't want to say the pleasure, but I was the one on the phone call with him that night of August 10th when he called me. And my dad begged out several times for help. But it was different because his cry for help, he was really seeking help and he was pleading for help. But it was a different kind of outcry when I heard it because he called me and he said, baby, that's just like if you have a child. You want to go to their aid when they're hurting or when they're in distress or if somebody's doing something to them, and that's just how I felt that night. My daddy had 5 children. He had 5 children, 26 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren. But he just wasn't a father to us. He just wasn't a grandfather to our children. He was a father to the community. He was a grandfather to the community, our friends, our other family members, their children. That's the type of man our father was. And again, I've said it before. We want the narrative that's been placed out there, that's been put out there on his name. We want that narrative changed. We want his name restored. We want our father to be able to rest in peace. And right now, I don't feel like he's resting in peace. We want this video to be released. And we want the video to be released now. We understood yesterday, we did have a meeting with the DA, and we thanked her. We understood exactly what she said to us, and we hope that she understood where we was coming from. Because at the end of the day, this is our new normal. That was our father. That was our family member. And the ones that has been sticking by our side, the ones that have been marching with us, supporting us through it all, we thank each and every one of y'all. But this is not the end. We got to keep fighting. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep going, because this is just one of the things that we got, which was the termination. But this is not all that we're looking for. We want justice, and we want justice now for our father. Yes, it may take a while, but at the end of the day, we want to see what this justice look like. And for us, that's this officer not only being terminated. We don't want him to ever work at another police department. We don't want him to ever do this to anyone else. Yes, we want him prosecuted. Yes, we want him jailed. Yes, we want this video to be released so the world can see what happened to our father on August the 10th. It's no way that we should have buried our daddy. He had so much more to live for. It's no way that we need to be going to the cemetery visiting our daddy, while this 23-year-old Darin Kimbrough gets to sit at home, gets to watch his TV shows, gets to do what he want to do. And who knows, maybe he have kids, maybe he don't, but he'll have an opportunity for that. We won't. We don't have that anymore because he stripped us of that. He's taken that away from us. Me and my family, we are suffering. We are hurting. My siblings, them, we are crying, and we're crying out. We want the people to continue to stand with us. We want the community to continue to rally around us. And we want justice for our father. When we get justice for our father, then we feel like we've got justice for so many that didn't get this opportunity, that didn't get this chance. Yes, we celebrate the victory. Of course, we thank God. We praise God for it. I was shouting in my living room when I got the text message. I was crying in tears. I was on the phone with my sister. I called, my brother even texted me. I was praising God because guess what? I know that as long as God is in the midst of this, we're going to be all right. Because they said when all of us, two or more, are gathered in his name, we're going to see change. We're going to see change. All things work for the good of those that love the Lord. See, we was raised up like that. That's because our daddy taught us. See, that's what we had. That's the kind of father we had. A loving father, a God-fearing father, a father that not only took care of his family, but he took care of other families. He made it where other families could live in their households. He made it where other families could move around. But we don't have that no more. So yes, we're seeking justice. Yes, we want justice. Yes, we want this video to be released. And we want the world to see it. It's no way we are comfortable or all right with a 23-year-old black man killing another black man that was 62 years old. My daddy wasn't a threat to him. Not at all. He wasn't a threat with him at all. See, my daddy could have held on to him. He could have prayed with him. He could have talked to him. He even tried to de-escalate the situation by saying, you know what? I'll sign the ticket. I'll sign the ticket. It's no way now the chief is going to come back and say, oh, well, we terminated him because a supervisor wasn't there. That's absurd. Come on now. That's BS. Don't blow smoke on us. We don't like that. We don't like that. Don't do us like that because we still hurting and we sensitive to this situation. Don't do us that way. Please don't. Because that makes us feel some type of way. And we don't feel like you're truly with us. Not when you're doing that. Say what it is. Put it out there. Be honest about it. Come on, let's be transparent. You know how he passed. You know how he died. You know at the hands of who he died from. Put it out there. But don't keep giving us this BS. We tired of it. We are tired. We're not getting no sleep. We're not getting no rest. We're not eating. Our children are falling apart. And we tired of it. We're not going to continue to take this. And you're not going to keep smearing his name. You're not going to keep talking about him in that way. Because that's not who Johnny Hollman Sr. was. He was a man of God. Not just a deacon. He was a man of God. And as long as God stays in the midst of this, we're going to be all right. Because like Reverend Jones said, justice is going to roll down. It's going to roll down. Whether they want it to or not. God's word will not come back void. And you better understand that. We're going to get justice. Thank you.
Reverend McDonald, come on up and stand with us. Reverend Timothy McDonald is a long time organizer. Thank you. Reverend McDonald's opened up his church for the Justice Revival on next Thursday. So we have an intergenerational. We have a recent graduate of Spelman, one of our community organizers, Connect King, and then we have our sister Queen, who has been leading the chants and marching. We got a little bit of everybody here. So this is a different kind of coalition for this family that we haven't seen in a long time, and so we're grateful, and we're looking forward to the fight ahead, and we're ready for that. We'll take a few questions and go from there.
Mr. Spence, you described officer as obsessed. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, there is a particular instance where his obsession is crystal clear. By this time, he's done a leg sweep on Deacon Hollman. He's taken him to the ground. He's hit him. He's roughed him up. He's tased him. Now, by this point, Deacon Hollman has said 3 times before he was ever taken to the ground, "I'll sign the ticket, I'll sign the ticket, I'll sign the ticket." The officer had asked him to sign the ticket. So if his goal was compliance, he got it when Deacon Hollman said, "I'll sign the ticket." But when he was on top of him, tasing him, he screamed at Deacon Hollman while he was trying to handcuff him and tase him, "You're going to sign the ticket." He was in no physical position to sign the ticket, but it just shows how obsessed he was by that point. And it was no longer about compliance. It was no longer about his fidelity to his law enforcement responsibilities. He was obsessed at that point, and he was determined to get the best of this 62-year-old man, which he had already done. And again, so when we talk about the culture, and again, we talk a lot about this officer, but we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we're talking about a culture. Mm-hmm. And Attorney Davis mentioned earlier about a change in policy. And part of what we do as a law firm is not just try to get a legal matter to resolve it for some financial remuneration. As you now know, the city of Atlanta has changed its policy so that if a citizen gets stopped and is issued a traffic citation and refuses to sign that citation, that citizen can no longer be arrested for mere failure to sign the citation. The officer will write refusal to sign on the citation and give it to the citizen. What does this mean? Citizens of Atlanta who get stopped every day, and citizens get stopped every day for traffic offenses. And what this family has done by its activism, what this community that has embraced them has done by its activism, is to cause a change in policy that will benefit countless citizens who may not have to experience what Deacon Hollman experienced on August 10th, 2023.
The second policy that, through this demand of the release of the video that was disclosed to us yesterday by Madam District Attorney Fonnie Willis, is that now at the 60-day point of any officer-involved fatality where there is a video, the District Attorney's Office, the GBI, and that agency, police agency that is involved, will be required to meet to make a determination as to whether or not all of the witnesses have been interviewed, and if they have, the appropriateness of the release of the video. Some of you all don't remember, there was a time in Georgia when the GBI was not involved in every police investigation. In fact, DeKalb County, Fulton County, APD, Cobb County, they were jurisdictions they considered themselves large enough to investigate themselves. What changed that? What changed that was the death of a gentleman by the name of Kevin Davis. Kevin Davis was killed in DeKalb County. We began marching, doing sit-ins overnight, staying up. His family, community did those protests. We were involved in that, so when people ask, why do we do it the way we do it this way because we are trying to change policy. And because of Kevin Davis and the life and his life that was taken from him by a DeKalb County police officer, now GBI is required to investigate all police-involved deaths. New day is coming. New policies are coming. As long as we can continue to rely on the people to be involved, engaged, and vocal in doing this work. And so that is what we hope to accomplish here. It's bigger than just for this family. What they want to see is some systemic changes that we've already impacted just by the advocacy of all of the folks that you see here today and those that you didn't see, those that marched the streets, those that have been making signs, those that have been protesting and signing the petition on the color of change to release that video. We thank you all. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you all coming. We look forward to you all seeing, being a part of the Justice Revival next Thursday at 6:30.
6:30, first eye.
At First Eye. Thank you all, and God bless you.